Efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare stalled this week when Republicans delayed a vote on their plan, putting it off until after their return from the 4th of July recess. Will they have enough votes, though, to pass the bill? In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. But first, joining us now is Republican Senator Rand Paul, who's among a group of Republicans opposing the current bill and has some ideas on how to get repeal and replacement through. Senator Paul, good to talk to you this morning. Let me start off with a tweet that the president sent earlier, which was actually what convinced you to come on here on the July 4th weekend. The president tweeting, quote, "If Republican senators are unable to pass what they're working on now, they should immediately repeal and then replace at a later date." The president appears to be listening to you. You mentioned this to him on Wednesday, though your colleague from Nebraska, Ben Sasse, is also claiming credit for this. But Senator McConnell has said, thanks but no thanks. So will this idea even fly?
Well, here's the problem, is I don't think we're getting anywhere with the bill we have. We're at an impasse. Every time you add more federal money, more spending for the big government Republicans, it offends the conservatives. So right now, this bill, which is not a repeal, has become the kitchen sink. We have nearly $200 billion in insurance bailouts. Does anybody remember us complaining that Obamacare had insurance bailouts? We now have codified nearly $200 billion. There's $45 billion in here for opioids. So, I mean, the bill is just being lit up like a Christmas tree full of billion-dollar ornaments, and it's not repealed. We don't repeal the regulations. We don't repeal the subsidies. Now there are Republicans getting so weak-kneed, they're saying, oh, we're afraid to repeal the taxes. What happened to these people? They all were for repealing Obamacare. Now there's virtually no one left.
The president stressed the need earlier this year, Senator Paul, to do this simultaneously because there is a concern about the continuity of coverage. Let's listen to how the president put it in a press conference at Trump Tower.
It'll be repeal and replace. It will be essentially simultaneously. It will be various segments, you understand, but will most likely be on the same day or the same week, but probably the same day, could be the same hour.
The president was stressing there, Senator Paul, that you've got to do this, if not simultaneously, very close together so that you don't have a bunch of people who end up without health insurance. So what would your plans do to address that?
Well, and I agree. When I say separate the bills, I think they could still be done concurrently. In fact, I think the moderates won't vote for a repeal, a clean repeal, unless they have some other bill going on simultaneously. So what I've suggested is big government spending programs from the repeal. Let's do clean repeal like we promised, and I think you can get 52 Republicans for clean repeal. You can have a simultaneous bill or a concurrent bill that they can call replace, and that I think perhaps if it's big spending, they can probably get Democrats to go along with big spending. I'm not for that, but I'm saying I want repeal to work, and the way you do is you separate it into two bills and you do it concurrently. Right now, you're right. Senate leadership's not doing that. Senate leadership is loading the bill like a Christmas tree with billion-dollar ornaments, baubles, you name it. They're going to spend money like there's no tomorrow on the current bill and try to buy off support. That's traditional Washington. What I'm asking for something is not traditional. Separate the bills.
Well, let me ask you this question. You just said you're not for spending, so you are for repeal. So if you do this separately, you'll vote for the repeal bill, and there's no question about that. But when it comes to the replacement part of it, where's your vote going to go?
Well, see, my idea of replacement has always been replace it with freedom, replace it with choice, competition, expanded health savings accounts, buying groups, the association health plans that I've been pushing across state lines where you can join a buying group and get a lower price. That's my idea of replacement. So it's funny, back in January, I was pushing repeal and replace because I thought Republicans believed in replacing it with a marketplace. Now I've discovered that at least half of my Senate Republican colleagues think replacement means replacement with Obamacare light, with more federal spending and more federal programs. I'm not for that, but I am for repeal and replace. I want to expand the amount of people to get insurance at a cheaper price, but I would do it through freedom of choice. I would do it through the marketplace, buying groups across state lines, and letting people save more money in HSAs. And I think the problem with Republicans now is they have insufficient confidence in what made America great, and that's capitalism, freedom of choice, competition.
As I mentioned, your colleague from Nebraska, Senator Sasse, has suggested that this was his idea as well. He sent a letter to the president saying that if the Senate does not have a bill by the 10th of July, then let's go ahead and do the repeal and replace separately, and let's work through the August recess in order to get this all done. Would you sign on to the idea of working through the August recess?
I'd rather get it done even before that. In fact, I think you could do this in the next 3 weeks. There are other bills out there that are sitting around that have bipartisan support. Separate, repeal, and replace. If there are big government spending programs that offend conservatives like myself, put them on some other bill. But the thing is you can't get conservative votes, or you can't get my vote. This bill with a bunch of federal spending. You know, we have a five.
I'm sorry, we're having some trouble there with the signal. Senator Paul, hang on just a second. I think we have you back. Go ahead, finish your thought there.
We have a $500 billion deficit, and we're going to have $1 trillion next year. For loading up repeal with a lot of big government spending. So I think if you want conservative support, you split the bills. I think you can get almost every member of our caucus to vote for a clean repeal if there's a concurrent or simultaneous separate bill that includes some of the things that moderates want.
And just before we leave you, we've got about a minute left, Senator Paul. I wanted to ask you about something. You were there in Arlington for that horrible shooting, which prompted a call from many people in Congress to improve the tone of the political discourse, to give more sense of civility. You saw the tweets that the president set out earlier today, unapologetic for it. What's your thinking on that whole thing about what the president tweeted and how that plays into these calls for greater civility in our political discourse?
I would approach it more generically and say that we probably don't need to question our adversaries' motives. So, for example, President Obama, I think, wanted to help more people get health care. I think Obamacare failed, but I don't question his motives or his goodness as a person in trying to do it. In the same tone, I think Democrats that are saying thousands of people are going to die if Republicans pass their health care plan, that's so over the top and so goes to sort of painting people as mean-spirited or as evil. And then you get people who are so crazed by this and obsessed that they'll come to a baseball field and shoot people. You know, there is a problem, and I think we need to both acknowledge we want the same things, but we have to argue over which economic system works best. Does capitalism work best or socialism? And let's have those arguments, and those are valid arguments, but I don't think we need to question whether each of us believe in trying to fix the system and get more people health care.
Senator Paul, thanks so much for joining us, and we wish you a happy 4th of July. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks.